Hi, everybody, and welcome to. I know I hate that, don't you? I saw the look on your face, and I hate when she comes into my ear and says, "This meeting is." I don't know how to turn that off. It's really, really annoying. I don't get it.
Yeah, I'm used to it now. Just another woman talking to me.
Well, you don't
I
want to turn
got,
off
I
our
got,
woman listeners
I
here.
have four at home that talk to me, so I'm pretty good at figuring out which one I want to listen to.
Well, it's good to have everybody in. Hope everybody enjoyed the episode last week, our mechanical breakdown series, Rewind, part of our best of series. We couldn't do an episode last week, but we're glad to be back here because today we are breaking down the swing of one of the most prolific, I use that word a lot, but it's relevant to this guy, one of the most exciting, I'll use that word, that's a better word,
Mm-hmm.
hitters at all of baseball right now, Ronald Acuna Jr. We'll get to that in just a little bit. I'm Jim. Let me introduce my former coach, friend, co-host, professional evaluator, successful business owner, and a guy who has got to get to his laundry. So we got to get to this show and do it quick. The man's got to do his
Friday in
laundry.
Texas. Friday in Texas is laundry day, so when I come back, I'm ready to rock and roll as soon as I hit the ground.
Yeah, you're in your man cave today, I see. And you've got an
I
alarm.
I
That's
am. There
that's the
was the
alarm.
laundry alarm.
That's the laundry alarm.
I better
So
get rid of it. Make sure it doesn't come back on again.
a couple of things to get to while we were gone here that sprung up in the news this week, banning of foreign substances with pitchers now. And it's been something that apparently has been widespread around the league with pitchers using these substances and hiding on their glove and their arm and using the suntan lotion and the spray and everything else to get the advantage over hitters. Now, notwithstanding, I don't think that's fully the reason as to why hitters are struggling this season. But I'll say this, that and I'll just come out of the gate with this. This one's on the players because in 2016, when they signed that new CBA, they had the opportunity to prevent these rules and prevent Rob Manfred and Major League Baseball officials from changing these rules mid-season. But that wasn't in the CBA. Instead, they wanted the extra bus seat. Okay, well, that's fine. But this one's on you for players complaining and pitchers now saying this isn't fair. Well, you got caught. And not only did you get caught, but you didn't cover all your bases in the last CBA. So maybe this CBA will be a little bit different. But the pitchers got caught, and there's no other way around it.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I don't know. I'm not an expert in the different substances. Like I've known that the old school was like get sweaty, you put some rosin on, and it creates some stink. And then there was the sunscreen and rosin. Okay, and that gives this extra grip. Mm-hmm. But when you start concocting other things besides that, then we have a real problem. And you would see it built up, on guys' hats, especially right here.
Right.
There was a guy I was watching the other day, and he was all over the place, touching all different parts of his body before he would, kind of grab the ball. It's like anything else. You can't complain if you're cheating, right? You can't complain that, okay, this is an illegal foreign substance. This would be like a corked bat. You've been using a corked bat all season. Now all of a sudden they say you can't use a corked bat.
Yeah.
And then you have to stop using it.
Yeah.
Like I get it, but the fact of the matter is when spin rates became a real big deal and everyone's trying to manipulate it, that's how they manipulated it. Okay, there's only so much stuff you can do with your fingers. Remember all the guys that get blisters, right? Because they had great breaking balls and they would constantly have blisters on their hand because they were spinning it so much. Well, now all of a sudden we can put different things on there to create that same spin. So yes, it's causing issues with hitters because the ball's doing different things, right? And if the ball does different things that our brain isn't accustomed to, we're going to miss it. Remember, we don't see the ball the last usually 12 feet, 10 to 12 feet. We are not seeing the ball. We've predetermined where that ball is going to end up.
Yeah.
Based on experience, spin, depth, whatever, height. And now all of a sudden that ball is doing something different inside of 10 feet that our brain doesn't really recognize. Mm-hmm. We're going to foul it off. We're going to miss it. Yeah. So that's the issue. And it is interesting, the guys that have been so dominant the last few years and the difference in their spin rates over the last few years, right? Like there's something to that. The ball seams. There's still, what is it, 109 seams on a baseball. You know, there's the ball's still the same size. Why all of a sudden can we do these crazy things, you know, out of the ordinary the last few years? So yeah, I think the substance has to be an issue. You know, we talk about lack of control. If they don't have it, I don't see where that's, I mean, I see that's an issue, but that's, the pitchers are going to walk people, right? If you can't control what you've got with a baseball that you've grown up your whole life doing, I don't see how that's an issue. There's still rosin. You know, Bob Feller threw pretty hard. Sandy Koufax threw pretty hard.
Yeah.
Kevin Brown threw pretty hard. You know, a lot of guys throw really hard. Why is it that we can't control it without this goop on there?
Yeah, Randy Johnson too.
So that's just me picking up. That's me picking up for the hitters. Like, if you have control, you know what? I'm going to put a face mask on as a hitter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'll show up with, you know, a small cage, you know, on my face if guys are going to be that out of control. But if they're that out of control, guess what? They're not going to pitch. They're going to walk 3 guys and they're out.
Right.
And then you got to worry about someone else that can't control
it. You know, Carlos Rondon Rodon. Why did I say Rondon? Carlos Rodon of the White Sox brought up a point how Rob Manfred wants to suspend pitchers 10 games for getting caught. And he brought up a good point about, well, the Astros got 0 suspensions. None of the players got suspended.
I know.
So my point is to all of this, how come it seems like, maybe I was a kid and I didn't notice it with Bud Selig, but why does it seem like with Rob Manfred, things constantly, these little things just pop up that are controversial and never really get solved? And it's just building and building and building to the point where they become bigger issues under the leadership of Rob Manfred. I mean, this is part on him too, because he didn't crack down on this. He's too worried about the baseball being juiced or not being juiced. When he's too worried about moving the All-Star game out of Atlanta rather than addressing these little issues that are actually hurting the on-field entertainment product.
Yeah. And then that's what, you know, everybody thinks we just sweep it under the rug.
Right.
And then it explodes. That's just what happens. That's what happened with the PEDs, right? Sweep it under and then boom, there's a leak and all goes, you know, haywire, right? The floods begin. So
yeah, it
had to happen. You know, it's too bad that it happened in the middle of the season, but it had to happen at some point. And okay, well, we'll deal with it and move on. You know, Rob's had a rough time, so maybe, you know, he'll learn from it, or someone else will, you know, be better.
Yeah, he's had a rough time, but I think you and I can both agree that it's his doing as to why he's had a rough time.
Yeah, he's not an innocent bystander in all of this.
Yeah, no.
I mean, he has people working for him, right? Doesn't Joe Torre, you know, Joe Torre's working for, there's all kinds of brilliant baseball people that work in the commissioner's office that have their ear to the ground. And I'm sure they report to the commissioner.
Yeah. But,
you know,
but I think it's the same scenario in that there's a lot of excellent scouts in an organization, but there's one decision maker. And we all know who that is. It's either the president and GM or the general manager.
That's right.
So I mean, you could exhume Billy Martin, exhume his body, and you could put him as one of Rob Manfred's fucking whatchamacallits. And
henchmen,
and won't do anything because if he's not listening to him, it doesn't matter. Right. By the way, somebody said Joe Torre might be the next commissioner. You like that idea?
Sure, I like Joe Torre.
Yeah, I do too.
I don't think Joe Torre needs that kind of stress, man. I think Joe Torre needs to get on a golf course and chill out,
get away from this game.
Some people love it, you know, and they stand. But if I had Joe Torre's bank account, I'd probably not want the stress of the commissioner's office.
Kind of like Brian Price just did recently. I don't know if you read that story. He said, "I'm done." He said, former pitching coach of the Phillies and manager of the Reds said, "I'm done."
Yeah,
I'm going to be on a.
Well, I've seen a lot of college baseball coaches this year that are saying, "Well, I'm going to pursue other interests."
Yeah,
I got to spend time with my kids. Like it's so difficult to be a college baseball coach.
Hey,
every day you don't have a day off, you know, and so guys are starting to do their own thing. It's tough. It's a tough game.
Speaking of which, I want to ask you. We have to do a quick prediction here of the College World Series. Out of these teams, Stanford, NC State, Vanderbilt, Arizona, Tennessee, Virginia, Texas, Mississippi State. Who do you got? I know who I got.
Man,
You're the expert.
I feel like if Rocker and Leiter are going to get 2 games in each, they're going to go pretty far. Vanderbilt's going to go far. They're not as good as they were in 19, but their 2 starting pitchers are. But the rest of their staff isn't as good. They had a phenomenal staff in 19, top to bottom. So I feel like they're going to go pretty far. However, I watched Stanford play, and they played with zero fear and this internal confidence that I had not seen, especially offensively in a West Coast team ever. And then I saw the same thing with Arizona, where these guys just got in the box and they didn't care. They just raked. They were aggressive early in the count. I feel like those 2 teams are going to score runs, but I'm going to go with Tennessee.
You know what? Holy shit.
I'm going to go with Tennessee.
I was going with Tennessee as well. I was going to say Tennessee. I like their grit. I like their mental toughness. I like their players. I like their hitters, and I like their bullpen.
Yeah, me too. I think their offense is similar to those to Arizona and Stanford in terms of aggressiveness.
Yes,
but I feel like their pitching is a little bit stronger than those teams for sure. Well, it's definitely stronger than those teams for sure.
So everybody can hold us to it now, right? Tennessee. Yeah. We're picking Tennessee, the 2 experts here.
And I don't know if you saw like Vitello and Peyton Manning on that Omaha skit.
I did not know.
Oh my God. It's pretty good. You got to look it up. It's on Twitter. Go to Vols Baseball or something. It'll be on there. But essentially it has to do with Omaha. Right. Peyton Manning's audible call, right? It's pretty. Peyton Manning's funny.
Yeah.
And Vitello did pretty good.
Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast. New episodes on the audio and video side Mondays at 9 a.m. And subscribe to our YouTube page in the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast for video episodes like this one, of course, and previous episodes as well. We got to tie some loose ends before we get to the Ronald Acuna Jr. Swing breakdown. Tying up some loose ends from last show 2 weeks ago. We were talking about scouting hitters, and it was a great episode. We got a lot of good listens for that, a lot of good listening numbers. So thank you for that. But the one thing that sort of crept into my mind the last couple of weeks with scouting hitters now, it's a little different too with pitchers as from previous years, but scouting hitters and evaluating them based off the new robo zones, which are now implemented at the lower levels of the minor leagues. So how can scouts avoid mistakes of evaluating hitters, for example, saying they understand or don't understand the strike zone, writing that up in their report? How can they avoid that with this new robo zone? Because there are a lot of, from what I've been told and what I've seen, a lot of inaccuracies with this robotic strike zone at the lower levels of the minor leagues.
Yeah, and that would be different scouting, right? So that would be more advanced scouting, or trying to get a player to be named later, or picking up.
That's exactly what I'm talking about, like player that you put in throughout the couple of months that you might want to pick up at the trade deadline, or try to get some organizational depth.
Yeah, if there's issues with the RoboZone, then I don't even look at it. I evaluate the player and what I see and his instincts in the box and how jumpy is he or not jumpy, or is he too patient, waiting for perfect pitches and getting in a hole. So, I'm evaluating. Sure, there's statistics. Like I want to see what kind of player he is. I want to see what kind of player he is with runners in scoring position, because that tells me no physical tools. That tells me concentration, brain. Can he relax his heart rate or slow his heart rate down? Can he be successful in stressful situations? I'm looking at that more than his, swings in the strike zone, or, I don't know. I guess that would be more old school. I want to see him swing. And I want to see what he does in stressful situations, and I want to see how he moves in the batter's box. So I wouldn't care about. I don't know. I'm not. I'm an expert in my own mind, I guess, on certain things with hitters and how they can be successful. But
Yeah.
I'm certainly not an expert in overall scouting. In I shouldn't in players that get deep in counts and players that walk a lot and players
Mhm.
that are on base a lot. That's not my forte. I'm not a sabermetrics guru. I don't, not to say that it's wrong by any stretch. There's definitely a role in that with baseball, but for me, I'm more hitter oriented,
Right.
physical and mental, right? Like
Yeah.
their makeup and their thought process and their plan and their approach.
Mhm.
But I'm not putting 50% of that weight on their awareness of the strike zone,
Yeah.
because I feel like some really good hitters are just aggressive and they find barrels. They're
Yeah.
not sitting there nitpicking. And some players, if they sit there and, I got to wait for the perfect pitch,
Mhm.
they're hitting with two strikes all the time. They're not successful.
Yeah. Also, too, we brought this up somewhat a couple of weeks ago, and I want to kind of rehash it a little bit. And this recent trade that the Yankees and the Rays made, the Rays picked up Mike Ford from the Yankees. So now Mike Ford will probably turn into like a 50 home run guy because that's what the Rays do, because they're the smartest organization in all of
And
baseball,
they
bar
strike out
none.
the most.
Do they strike out the most?
I think so.
Wow. Well, everybody strikes out. So,
I know, but they're up there. That was mind blowing to me.
well, we mentioned their stats though a couple of weeks ago. Outside of strikeouts, they're top 10 and everything.
Yeah,
Okay. Anyway, so
including strikeouts.
what I was saying, they picked up Mike Ford. If you don't know who he is, kind of a stocky left-handed batter. He went to Princeton, so he's got to be smart, right? So they all
Yeah.
say if you
Is he
go
the
to a
chubby guy? Is he kind of chubby?
yeah, he's got a weird mustache.
Yeah, I like him. I mean, he looked,
I
he
like him
looked like a
too.
Yankee.
I like him too. He looked like an old school Yankee with the mustache.
Yeah,
He should have
yeah,
been playing in the Don Mattingly era,
yeah.
Dave Winfield and Ricky Henderson era. Anyway, so um, what was I saying about? Oh, so I'm betting here that they're gonna somehow find a way, the Rays, to make Mike Ford better as a hitter.
Hmm.
So I wonder, the Rays, we've talked about it a couple of weeks ago. They have the most scouts and they have one of the largest research and development departments in all of baseball. So how can research
Hmm.
and development and scouts work together? Forget analytics for a second, forget that department because they're two separate departments. They should be anyway, because research and development is more scientific based, where analytics, obviously,
Hmm.
it's numbers, right? That'll be a trivia
Hmm.
question someday for our audience, when we give away some products or something. What's the difference between analytics and research and development? So, with research and development and scouting, how can those two work together? Because there is a commonality there. I think there's a bridge that can be built there, so that makes each other better. The scouts can
You need,
bring their questions, and research and development can help scouts with what questions they may have about a certain player.
you just throw it all on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So that bridge is a separate staff,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Or a separate group of individuals that know how to piece and utilize that information. So what are the scouts good at? They're good at seeing things,
Mm-hmm.
and you take their reports. And then what are the analytics guy good at? They're good at crunching numbers, right? So then all of a sudden you just take these reports and you put them in the middle, and then you have two or three people that are really good at doing both. I feel like I would be one of those people, right? Or people that are kind of knowledgeable on both sides. And then you make your decision. But I don't think you make the scouts look at the analytical stuff. They're going to get frustrated. And the analytical guys aren't going to be able to see how guys, approach the game, so to
Right.
speak,
Mm-hmm.
um, and kind of work that way. That's what, we do. The organization that I work for, they're very good at that. They're very good at knowing what people are good at,
Yeah.
and having special assistants that are good at other things. And then they use it's not a monarchy with their front office, their president and their GM and their scouting directors take all that information together and kind of spin it and figure out what's best.
Yeah. Why you and I always talk about this? We've talked about this numerous times on the show, trying to combine the two. I'm sure the audience is sick
Mm-hmm.
of it by now. But why? How come you and I can figure it out on a weekly podcast, and teams who are worth billions of dollars can't figure this out? Is there too many people, too many cooks in the kitchen? I mean, what's going
It's
on
gotta
here?
be.
Why can't they figure this out?
I think there's one big cook,
Yeah.
right? There's one chef, and I think that chef, that's why there's leadership.
Yeah.
You always follow your leadership, right? We talked about teams taking on the personality of their head coach or their coach.
Yeah.
Look at University of Tennessee, right? They take on the personality of their coach, right? He's a younger guy. Tony's got a lot of energy. You could tell he backs his guys up. He fights for his guys all the time, right or wrong, how you look at it. But they want to play for him, and they're excited to play for him. And are they cocky? Yeah. Are they too cocky? Maybe. But who cares if they're winning?
Yeah.
Right? They're playing well. It creates a culture. So, I think it's same thing with the front office. If you have somebody that's in charge and they lean one way versus the other, it's going to be that way. Why is it going to be that way? Because you don't want to get fired.
Right.
Right?
You got a livelihood.
Yeah.
You have a family to feed. Correct.
Yeah, you need your health insurance, right? So you're like, I may not agree with this. I mean, that's just life. That's assistant coaches to a head coach too.
Right.
Like,
well, isn't that anything? Isn't that anything though?
It's anything.
Any industry,
I don't agree with what you're saying, but I'm going to keep my mouth shut because I need to keep my job, and you can end my job. And unfortunately, you have to have a leader that is open to that is forthcoming.
Yeah.
And is open to different ideas. Now, he may tell you that's a stupid idea, but at least he's going to listen and let you, tell them what you're thinking. That's good leadership.
Is that what you guys do at the lab, by the way?
No, I'm a total monarchy.
Really? You being, I don't know when you're joking. I don't know when you're joking there. I think you being late for your laundry has really gotten your head messed up today. Are you okay today?
I got laundry. I got meetings. I got classes. I got lessons, and I got to catch a night flight out of here.
I mean, you've talked about your 4 girls, and you alluded to they're always in your ear. You're mad about your laundry. I mean, you're fired up today. Are you sure you're okay? I can also be an armchair psychologist if need be.
You can. This is good. Let's talk this out. No, getting back to the lab, I have
the show guys. The lab, or are we talking?
The actual lab, and we meet. So I've met with different employees, from hourly employees to salary employees, and I kind of listen to everyone with their meetings. We go to lunch and kind of figure out what's on their mind and what's going well and what needs to be better. And then we create a plan. So I definitely lean on them quite a bit.
Where do you take them to lunch? Because remember, you got to take employees to a good lunch because they want to feel appreciated, especially with our younger generation.
Yes. So there's a great barbecue place in town we go to, which is kind of out. It's out of the ways. It's on the side of the road. It's in a metal building, and it is phenomenal. I'll give them a plug, 1775. And
are they a sponsor of the show?
No, but maybe they will be now. I'm sure their clientele.
They have to send us free food.
They do, yeah. And they cook Thursday, Friday, Saturday. That's it. It's the only days they're open. So we go on Thursdays.
So they're open. They're open 3 days.
How 3 days, and they usually sell out by 2:00 in the afternoon. 1:00.
So the pandemic must not really affect them that much.
No, they kill it. People go in there and buy all kinds of food, bring it home. You can sit there and eat. Yeah, they make plenty of money in those 3 days during the week. So we go there. Today we're going to a place called Mad Taco, which is a pretty cool, hip place.
Oh, it's hip.
Great taco. It's a great taco.
I'm not a big taco guy.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Mexican.
You'd like these tacos. They're a little bit different. Yeah.
If you have questions for us or comments, email us. I spilled a little bit of coffee on my table, by the way, and I'm not very happy about that. Now I got to clean it up when we're done here. See, you're not the only one with problems. Just busting your balls. JimboPodcast21@gmail.com for your questions and concerns. We only have time for one question today. So And it pertains to Ronald Acuna Jr., who we're talking about today with Ronald. And he's had a little bit of a dust up with Brian Sticker, his manager, recently. But with
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Acuna Jr., I don't have to. You'll see it on the graphic. I don't have to go through his numbers, but or some of his accolades. But I mean, this guy has a very interesting swing. It at times tends to be a little bit long, and at times it looks like he barrel dumps, which we'll get to in a second with the annotation plus the question that we have for today's show. But what do you make of his swing just in general, Ronald Acuna Jr.? Is that a swing that obviously it plays right now, but when he's 35, and I'm sure he'll continue to evolve, but when he's like 35, 36, is that swing, because when you look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr., you see a guy whose swing could play right now and it'll play when he's 39 because it's so short, compact, and
It's
so
like Miguel Cabrera,
mechanically sound, right? And
very similar.
I've heard people say before that that's a good comp for Vladimir. But with Ronald Acuna Jr., there also are some potential flaws there that might not work. Forget 10 years down the line, maybe in like 5 years, that may hurt his swing.
Yeah, I don't. He's a power hitter, so
okay. So you classify him as a power hitter.
I
not
classify
so much
him as a power hitter.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Even though Vladimir Guerrero's, got it. He hits a lot of home runs. They're line drive home runs, right? He's going to hit above 300. So. Yeah. It's a different swing plane. It's a different move. It's the move I love and that I try to teach all my players. But Acuna is just more of a maybe. I mean, it's a different swing, but he would be more in the Bellinger category.
Okay.
Okay, with swing, but actually Bellinger's flattened out a lot. But Acuna has great timing, which we'll see. When he's hot, he's really hot, and when he's cold, And he has amazing hands and amazing barrel release. So he's an old school barrel throwing kind of guy. And when he does that, he gets longer earlier. He drops the barrel a little bit, and then he throws that thing up to release that big barrel. And so he's going to have, when he hits it, he's going to have a ton of power, and it's going to be a higher launch. He's going to foul a lot more pitches, good pitches off than other guys that hit for higher averages. And he's probably going to tend to, maybe roll over a few more balls than other guys, but he extends so well that he limits that rollover. So I think he'll play, when he gets old. Is it going to be more difficult for him to time up? Absolutely. Is he going to have to worry about that? No, because he's going to be he's going to have $400 million in the bank, and he'll be like, okay, it's time to go. My time is up. Oh, I'm 35. Big whoop. Right? Like, big whoop. Oh, I'm not as good as I was. See ya. Go give your money to a younger guy.
Wants to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah. He might be a Hall of Famer.
So he's 20.
You got to play 20 years.
22, right? So by 35, that'll be 13 years in the big leagues.
If he stays in shape, he'll be fine.
By the way, he has maybe I'm wrong about this, but he has really strong wrists. I can see the barrel just whip through the zone.
Yeah, it's just a wood bat swinging son of a gun. Like, he grew up swinging a big wood bat is what it looked like. And he learns how to release it. Yeah. He's like a little golfer that can bomb at 320 yards. He knows how to use the lever.
Yeah.
And he uses his hands and arms really well to release that lever. And he just, has a little bit more arc to his swing. And he's going to hit more high fly balls that go really far for home runs. And he's going to, tend to miss. I mean, I don't think he's going to be a 240 hitter, but I don't see him being a 300 hitter. He's going to be a guy that gets really, really hot, and you can avoid him in the lineup, if you're an opposing team. And then when he's not going right, you can really attack him, and you're going to be okay.
All right, so let's get to our annotation, our swing breakdown of Ronald Acuna Jr.
Okay, so as we go through here with Acuna, this is the front view. We're going to start with the front view. And, one thing we see is right at front foot plant, you can see how closed off he is. His front toes are like right on the white line, and his back toes aren't. So he's a guy that closes off pretty good. Most big leaguers do because their hips rotate really well. And one of the issues with young players I see is that they're all like taught to rotate really fast. So they just spin their hips and then they spin their shoulders. And that creates a real problem when those two spin together. Okay, I mean, I never use the term spin, but spinning off has a negative connotation, rotating doesn't. But you can over rotate, and that would be a bad thing. So this, a lot of times with the feet, going a little bit more towards, for him, the second base side, just allows him to stay on pitches. That's why he hits a lot of home runs to right center field. And he hits a lot of really far home runs to right center field, if I'm not mistaken. Like they're 440 feet sometimes. And as he gets to the ball, he's a big thrower, I would say. He's a big barrel thrower. You can just see how he kind of gets the barrel lagged back here. See how the barrel's kind of pointing towards the catcher's shoulder guard, his left shoulder guard. And then from there, there's not a lot of movement with the rest of the body except his barrel. Like he's just releasing the knob left and throwing that barrel through, and he gets his right arm really straight. Now, if we look at this when he hits it, his belt, his hips are not rotated past the pitcher. I mean, maybe they're rotated, his belt's facing the pitcher, but his belt is not facing left field. Okay. And his chest is not facing left field. Okay. He keeps all that back really, really well. That's the hardest thing for young players to do, is not over rotate on those pitches. And if we look at this pitch, skip pitch to hit, right? It's like, I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but there's 6.5 balls roughly that cover home plate. Okay. So like 1, 2, I mean, this is very rough. 3, 4. Oh, that was a bad one. I'm going to have to overlap. 5, and then like 6.5, right? Cross home plate. So this is like ball 5, right? So this is a pretty good ball to hit here for him because he's closed off. Now, if they would have thrown him ball 1 here, they would have done this. Man, that would have been tough for him to get to if he closed down this much. I mean, he would have had to really turn and hit it. He probably would have pulled it foul if he were to hit it. Now, he probably would have pulled his hands in a little bit more, but that would have been a hard pitch for him because his front foot is so close to the plate. So did he have a plan? Was he looking for a ball middle away? Maybe that's what he does. Maybe he looks for a ball like, 4, 5, and 6. This is the zone he looks, right? And if he gets anything in that zone, he's going to unleash. If he gets anything in here, yeah, he's going to take it, right? You got to have a plan. You got to be smart. You got to know what you can do. So as we continue through here, how about the guy talking about, hey, whatever you wear at the plate, was it Bill James the other day? Whatever you wear at the plate, wrist guards, elbow guards, shin guards, you got to run the bases with them. Thought that was a pretty cool rule. It's going to save the first base coach some work. Okay, so now if we take him to the stride. Okay, so very different than our textbook hitters that we've looked. He's got so much stuff on, yeah. So, he's very different. Now, not with his stride. Okay, he's very good with his stride. This is a nice base. He doesn't hunch over. He's not a big squatty guy, right? But he gets to pretty much a perfect triangle here. The weight goes to the inside of his back foot, okay? But look at his bat, right? Like his bat is almost straight up, kind of like Alonso's kind of in this position, but his hands are a little bit lower. Most guys are here, and by most, probably 95% of major leaguers, their knob is facing the catcher and the barrel is right above the middle of their head. Okay, they almost all fit into that category. If we look at his shoulders, his front shoulder is not down very much. Okay, again, we're at the heel plant position. His hips really aren't open that much. I mean, if we look at his separation, everybody's like, K-vest guru and sensor guru, and you got to create 40 degrees of separate. Donaldson, right, gets into that big stretch position. If you look at Acuna, his chest is maybe facing there, and his hips are facing there. Like 20 degrees of torque, that's probably the least amount of torque of any major leaguer. And would we say that Ronald Acuna doesn't have very much power? Yeah, I think he has pretty good power. Okay, so there's different ways to create power. He's a guy that throws his hands. He's a guy that releases the barrel. Okay, I mean, this is a cookie, right? But a guy that dumps the barrel, that swings up too much, would have a hard time catching up to this pitch. Okay, so I'm I'm bringing him, just so you know, Jim, right before contact when his barrel's over his front knee. And I'm going to draw a line of the pitch plane. Okay, so here's the middle of the ball here. The pitch is kind of moving this way. Okay, how long is he on that line? He has a little tiny drop underneath here. So he's going to get exposed back there if he was to hit it over his back thigh. Well, he shouldn't do that. Okay, he would get exposed here, right, at this midpoint. He might even get exposed at the front knee where he would pop that up. But right at his front ankle, right, it's go time. Like the meat of his barrel is right on that. And then it stays on it, but then it gets off of it. Okay. So honestly, on this pitch, he was probably only going to be successful in that one window, right before contact and right after contact. A very small window. If he was late, he was going to swing under and foul it back. So if we go back to a lot of Acuna pitches, does he foul a lot of balls straight back? Yes. We go back to JJ's question. Would he be better if his barrel didn't drop as much early in the swing? Yes, he would absolutely be more consistent. Now, would he launch as many high fly balls? I don't know. I don't think he would. And would his power numbers go down? Possibly. Would his slugging go up? Possibly, because he's going to not miss pitches. He's going to hit a lot more line drives. But this is like a perfect where he drops underneath that line by 2 inches, and then he extends really well. Look at his extension, right? Without rolling over. He gets to a great power V position, both arms straight, barrel shooting straight out. I mean, that's a really great extension position. So remember, if you're a player, you have players that drop underneath that line, but then they extend really well, they're going to consistently hit balls in the air. Okay, they're not going to hit very many ground balls. And if they're big and strong and they create enough, bat speed and exit velocity, then the ball goes over the fence. If you were to teach this to a 10, 11, 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old freshman in high school, they're just going to hit fly balls to the outfielders, right? And they're going to get caught because they don't have the strength yet. If we look at the rest of his swing, it is textbook. Okay, you can see his chest here at contact. He's not over rotating. Okay, you can see his back shin. If we draw that line on his back shin, it's below his front knee, right at the bottom of his front knee. His front leg is straight. His back heel is super high. He didn't squish the bug. His back foot kind of came up and forward a little bit. Okay, now let's look at his head, right? We were talking about that earlier today. Okay, again, heel plant. I mean, this is I'm not going to say funny, but it's a different heel plant position than what we're used to seeing with guys. Most guys have their front shoulder down and in more, and most guys have the back cocked. And he's very flat with his shoulder, and then it kind of goes from there. So as he continues through, look at his head pull back, right? His head's pulling back away from that line, right? We kind of talked about that, keeping the head behind the ball. That's exactly what that means. Okay, so this is just good stuff here with Acuna that we're talking about and trying to, figure out what makes guys. Not everybody's the same. Okay, he's one of the most talented guys in the world. We also talked about the arm bar. Okay, would he be able to rotate faster with his arm bent? Maybe. I don't know. Probably, but notice how it moves together. Like he bars his front arm at heel plant. Most players start the bar here. The fact that his arm is straight and then he turns means he's okay. And then he still pulls the arm out in front. So I always use him for players that I have that have an arm bar because that's a really hard thing to fix is an arm bar. And he does a great job of controlling it. It's straight there at heel plant. I wouldn't teach that. But then he turns together and then he starts to pull out in front and clear space. So even though his front arm is straight, he's able to pull it forward and create space. If he kept that arm barred against his chest, that would create real problems. So anyway, just kind of a good analysis here of what Ronald Acuna does and why he's successful and how he could be more successful. But quite honestly, his timing is great. And when his timing is good, when he's hitting balls here, he's going to be super hot. Like he's going to hit, 5 home runs in 7 days. But when his timing is off and he's hitting it back here at his front knee, or he's an inch out in front of that box, then he's going to really struggle.
All right, good stuff on that, of course, as always. Now let's get to our listener question. And this comes to us from JJ. Oh, he's mad at you, by the way, JJ. He's pissed at us. I think you know why.
JJ from Plymouth, New Jersey.
He writes
Pennsylvania. God, I messed it up. I know it's not Plymouth Rock, although it should be, because that's more fun if it was Massachusetts. But I know it's not. It's from.
Well, he says Jim and Jake, and this comes to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com. He writes, Jim and Jake. First,
JJ's our favorite guy, by the way.
It's not, AD is going to get mad at us now. You're getting the listeners all mad. We don't play favorites on this show. We invite
Jim,
everybody
you're my
to
favorite.
listen.
Jim's right. My favorite.
That's right. First, it's not Plymouth Rock. He said that with a period, so not an exclamation point. So I'm guessing maybe he said it with kind of a laughing type tone in his voice when he was typing.
But it wasn't a smiley face.
No. It's Plymouth, PA. It's not Plymouth Rock. That's in Massachusetts. Our town high school was Shawnee Indians. Our motto was Shawnee against the world.
That's so great.
You like that? I don't like this stupid motto, Shawnee. I played against a Shawnee high school when I was in high school as well.
Yeah, it's probably the same school.
One time. No, it was not the same school. Oh. It's Plymouth Rock, PA. I was in New Jersey.
But they're close to each other.
I went 4 for 5 against them, so Shawnee against the world can suck it. No more since 1968. It's been a part of a large regional school district. Okay. All right. So, sorry, JJ, no more Plymouth Rock, okay?
No
more. It's Plymouth, PA.
Unless you're a history buff, which is it's a very monumental piece of earth.
Of Earth?
Plymouth
Rock. Ronald Acuna Jr.'s arm bar. This is what he said. This is his question about Ronnie. Wouldn't he be able to turn faster with his front arm bent and make adjustments to pitches better? Also, wouldn't he be able to control his barrel better and not dump it below the pitch plane with his front arm bent? Thanks. And that's from our loyal listener, JJ from Plymouth, Pennsylvania. Thank you, JJ, for the question sent to us via jimbopodcast21@gmail.com.
Very good. It reminds me of a quote my high school coach, Tip Lefevre, said once.
What's his name?
And if Tip.
His name was
Tip Lefevre. Tip, Jim's brother. Jim Lefevre's brother.
Right, but his parents named him Tip?
I don't know. That's what his name. Tip.
Tip. Okay.
Yeah. Tip was great because I was my freshman year. I decided dip was cool because I was with all the seniors,
Yeah.
Practicing and in the fall,
cool, right?
Trying to be cool, right? So I had to dip in, and Tip said, "Oh, what you got in there, Ep?" I said, "I got a little dip in there." Yeah, I don't know what year it was, 1993, 2. He said, "That's cool."
Little dip in my.
He said, "You know what that does to you?" I said, "Yeah, it kind of buzzes me out a little bit. I'm a little dizzy." He says, "Yeah, check this out," and he pulled out his entire mouth. Yeah. He just went, "Ha." And it was all mesh and reconstructed. He looked like a robot because he had done it his whole life. And I never put tobacco in my mouth again after that. Right. So I owe Tip a lot.
So he was trying to teach you something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
In a very, very non-abrasive way.
Right.
But that's cool. Check this out.
But after showing you that, the key to that story was he pulled out a dip. So he was still dipping after reconstructive.
No, he wasn't. He was not still dipping.
Tip.
Hopefully.
Is Tip still alive?
Anyway.
Is he still with us, Tip?
I think so. Yeah, I think
if
so.
If he listens to this show.
What were we talking about?
Tip.
So this is what Tip used to say. He used to say, and if the queen had balls, she'd be king. That's what he used to say. If you said, yeah, coach, but if something, and he would say, yeah, and if the queen had balls, she'd be king. Love that quote. Anyway, getting back to JJ, he's absolutely right. Yes, if his lead arm was bent more, he would be shorter to the ball. His centrifugal force would be better because he could rotate with his hands closer to his body. Maybe his top hand would stay cocked a little bit more, which could create more release. But if you tried to teach that to him right now, he would get frustrated and say, why would I do anything stupid like that when I'm awesome? So if Ronnie was 10, 11, 12, 13, and not the greatest player, in the United States or the Dominican or Venezuela or Canada or Mexico, wherever he would be coming out of, you would not want him to do that. So you're absolutely right. As a young player, you would want them to be, much more compact or a lot shorter to the ball if possible. And if they can't do it, they can't do it. Maybe somebody told him that you got to try to keep this arm bent. He's like, I can't. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, I get it. Like, change is hard. If you straighten I was telling somebody the other day, I used to bar my front arm out. I have pictures when I was in college hitting home runs with a barred front arm. Mm-hmm. And then I've demonstrated with a bent front arm for 20 years, teaching every single day, demonstrating dry swings the right way or T swings the right way. Mm-hmm. And guess what? The other day I put myself on camera taking a full swing, and guess what happened? That front arm barred right out. Amazing. So sometimes it's just in the DNA, and you have to find a way to deal with it, and that's what he does. But yeah, JJ, you're right. He would be better possibly if he didn't do those things.
But I think the thing that should worry people the more about his swing is the barrel dump rather than the arm bar. You can work around that, right? I mean, we've talked about the arm bar before. You can work around that. Barrel dump, though, that's a tough one.
Yeah, the barrel dropping a little bit too much. Would the arm bar help with that? Maybe. Mm-hmm. The barrel dump, the arm bar could cause a little bit of length, but you could fix it during the turn. Yeah. Like, it can be straight, and then you can pull it forward and kind of be okay with the arm bar if you keep your top hand cocked and not open. So what he does is he kind of straightens it, and that barrel kind of opens, and it creates a longer arc, but he's athletic enough to be a possible Hall of Famer with that move.
Yeah. All right. Well, hey, great show this week. Coming up next week, you know what we're talking about?
Laundry.
Oh no, laundry.
We're not talking about laundry.
Laundry's
no. What's next week, Jim?
Next week
podcast 21
is preparing to get drafted. We're gonna maybe go back to the time when you were preparing to get drafted, and we're just gonna. You don't want to talk about that next week?
No, that reminds me. I got a new draft list the other day.
Yeah.
I thought I was done with my draft list. They just sent me a new one.
No, you're not done yet.
Where am I going to fit that in with laundry today?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. You could send it to me, and I can help you out. Although that's probably illegal.
It is illegal.
Yeah.
That will not be happening for whoever's listening.
Yeah, that won't be happening. Just, we're just fucking around. Anyway, or watching, by the way, anybody who's listening and watching on our YouTube page,
should watch
the Lab Epstein Hitting Podcast. Yeah. So next week we're discussing preparing to get drafted and all things preparing to get just the preparation, what goes into it, everything. I think it's a very interesting topic, and we're going to discuss that, especially for hitters. Because I think there's a difference between pitchers preparing to get drafted and hitters. So we're going to talk about that next week. We've got some good hitting breakdowns coming up throughout the summer. Ep's already told me that he's not going to be able to do a couple of episodes because he's got like 3 weddings to go to. So
Palm Springs, 123 degrees the other day. I got to go to Palm Springs.
So we're going to try to get some guest hosts when Ep's not available. So we'll figure it all out as we go along. So and this is on the graphic, or it was on the graphic, and I just want to make everything clear here that those subjects are subject to change. The topics subject to change. But next week we're talking about preparing to get drafted.
There you go.
So there you go. There you go. Do you have anything for the Lab? Any promos you want to do before you go off and do laundry and go eat at the at Taco Bell or whatever?
It's Mad Taco.
Right. Whatever it is.
Yes, we have another. We had a very successful camp 2 weeks ago. Very successful camp. We have another one, Camp 2, All Skills Camp.
Yes.
In 2 weeks from now. So we're excited for that. Otherwise, the air conditioning is nice and cool in the lab. Come see us. That's all I got. It's been cool. We've had some tournaments in town. I had a guy come in yesterday.
Yeah.
From Dallas, I had a guy from San Antonio that said, "Hey, can we come in, see you, rent a cage? Maybe you can work with our kids for an hour." We
Yep.
love the podcast.
Shut up. Shut up. Did
What
they
he
really say
said
that?
from San Antonio. I never met the guy before.
They said they love the podcast.
By the way, love the podcast. That was in his original email.
No shit. Did he say like he loves your role in the podcast, or did he compliment us
Yes.
both?
He says, I usually mute it when the guy with the backwards hat is talking. No, that's what he said. I meant to send you that. Yeah.
He said, okay. Was this over text or was this over a phone call?
He sent me an email originally.
Oh,
hey,
okay.
we're coming into town for a tournament.
By the way, love the PCast.
Yeah. But it was POD. Yes. He wasn't that cool.
Oh.
All right. What's that laundry timer?
Well, how do you know? How do you know though? But how do you know that he was talking about the podcast? What if he was just talking about like, hey, I love POD, like the band?
No, it said podcast, POD cast. Like he spelled it out. He didn't say PCast.
We're both wearing black again, by the way. It makes us look jacked. I've said that before.
No, this is navy.
Well, your camera's off. I don't know what to tell you. Looks like looks like your camera. Your camera showing your shirt is black.
Oh.
See, if you watch people listening, if you watch the show, you'd see what we're discussing here. Oh, you know what? Fuck you and your light.
There's some light.
You know, I got a shitty camera over here. We can't all have great cameras and shades like you in your man cave over there in Texas. All right, we'll see you next week, everybody. Have a good one. Thanks for listening and watching. Goodbye. Get lost. I'm not. Get out of here. Just leave.